rocpodcasts.com.
Now with 30% more alcohol by volume.
Well, here they come again. They heard that things were happening. With mics in front of faces, their lips begin a flapping. They talk about world and local news reports, and even Steph Michaels, cause she's a doggy whore. Corey says, man, it's a goddamn joke. Corruption is abundant and the POTUS is a host. Stacey says,
man, I'd like to act, but Americans are lazier than most, that's fact.
So go get a bowl, a spoon, and some cereal, and sit your ass down. It's time for AirWreckRadio.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking, and thank you for choosing AirWreckRadio. We'd like to apologize in advance if there's any inconvenience caused, but we're going down.
It is the 28th day of April in the year 2014. I'm Corey.
And I'm Stacey.
And this is episode 51 of AirWreckRadio. Is this a commemorative episode too? We could just say it is.
I guess. It's such a weird spot to be in, this final, this home stretch to the end of the first season.
Okay, so I got a question to pose to you to ponder on, unless you already have an answer, in which case I'd like it.
You have I may have an answer already, but I'm not sure if it fits the question.
Little, behind the scenes for the listeners. When we start the new season,
yes,
are we going to continue with the going up numbers, the 54, 55, 56, or are we going to go to season 1, episode 1, or season 2, episode 1?
I don't know.
See?
Listener,
think about it.
What's your thoughts on this matter?
It's an interesting question. It's an interesting question to pose.
The listeners have voted. They said they don't give a shit.
Okay. So why don't you think about it, and then when you have an idea, give me your input, and we'll talk about it then.
I think we should continue to count the episodes, so that the first episode of season 2 will be episode 55.
Yeah, and I think personally, we should just add the marking of S1 or something for season 1 or season 2. S2 episode 54.
Oh shit! When I label the episodes, I don't have a season marker in there, do I?
Oh, I don't. I haven't either because it's.
Oh no! It's like Y2K, Corey.
Because it's only been the first season, it doesn't really need a marker, and we hadn't been posed with this question yet.
It's gonna be the Apocalypse. All of our chickens are gonna thaw. And the oil's going to go to waste, and the stoplights will stop working, just like they did in Y2K. Remember what a debacle?
I remember what a debacle. I remember the ball fell.
And then it was hell on earth immediately.
Immediately after, I remember waking up the next day
and being like, I thought it was supposed to be the apocalypse. I got my Mad Max armor on and everything. What the fuck? By armor, I mean my little Mad Max underoos.
I talked about that with the guy at work today. The hardest thing that would have happened is that all of the computers, had we not been able to Y2K ready them beforehand, which we were, would have just went to the year 1900. Everything would have still worked. The date would have been wrong.
I think the worry was that like automated things would ran a possibility of like opening floodgates or I don't know, returning to default positions. Who fucking knows? I don't know. It was this big scare hype thing.
It was a big scare height thing. The biggest issue was that everything was going to go back to 1900, and then the issue would have been things that were scheduled would have been wrong.
You walk outside your fucking car, your car got turned into a horse. You're like, what the goddamn Y2K?
But you still have a computer for it to be wrong.
You put your shoes on. You're like, my Nikes didn't have spurs yesterday. What the hell is going on around here?
Why are these made out of buffalo leather?
I don't recall owning a 6-gun. That's right, folks. Here at AirWreckRadio, we think that 1899 was just like 1853.
How do we know any differently?
We weren't there.
Exactly. All right. Well, first, Breaky, you said you had a story you wanted to tell. So, tell away.
So, Corey, some changes have gone on in my personal life.
That happens. It's actually healthy.
Over the past 2 weeks. And the kids now go to, my son goes to one daycare, and my daughter goes to another mother's house.
Oh, holy balls. For having two kids in two different places to pick up and drop off.
The daycare that my son goes to doesn't have anybody my daughter's age.
Yeah.
And
I'm just saying, holy balls.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't have to do it. I'm just saying it's a pain in the balls.
It's kind of a pain, yeah. But it gives my daughter, children her own age to play with in the time after school. So this particular mom is a stay-at-home mom who homeschools, which I think is terrific. I think homeschooling is a terrific option for people who can have that option available to them. But some of the people that homeschool, I think it's safe to say some of them out there in their conservatism or whatever particular views they have. So daughter's been there for literally like 3 days, and a minivan pulls into my driveway, and I look out my window. I say, "Who the fuck is that?" So I go to the door. And it's the woman that's watching my daughter.
Oh, okay.
And she's all smiles and, "Hi, I'm blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm Stacey. And, we've never really met before. What's going on?" And she hands me a picture, a folded up piece of paper with a crayon drawing of a little stick figure boy and a little stick figure girl making kissy face at each other.
Oh.
Yeah. And it
cute.
says on the top, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Aww.
There are no names. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, not innocent about this. And I want to be very clear. The woman, she was very, very pleasant about it.
But upset.
But she drove over here to hand me this and tell me that she knows it wasn't one of the other girls because it's not either of their handwriting. And they don't really get exposed to that kind of thing over there. And I'm like, what? I was very political and I laughed it away and stuff. And she was very pleasant and giggly and this and that. And I'm like, I walked in the house. I told her, I was like, all right, I'll talk to her. You won't have this problem again. But I walked in the house and I'm like, is this a problem? Like,
now this is a shitty line you got to walk.
For friends of the show, for AirWreck heads that don't know, my daughter is 8 years old, and I don't want her talking a whole bunch about boyfriendy, girlfriendy stuff, but
this isn't a whole bunch.
This is a very super innocent drawing of like two little stick figures in crayon making kissy face at each other. It's like,
it's not like it was.
There's nothing wrong.
It wasn't graphic sexual. They weren't doing terrible things. The stick figures.
Yeah, nobody was stick figure boning.
It's not a picture I'd draw.
Right.
They're just a little boy, a little girl, make a little kissy face.
And the woman was like, I know, they see this stuff on Disney and stuff like that, but they don't even watch TV when they're over here. And I'm like, oh, woman, if this is the kind of separated life you're trying to give your daughter while you're homeschooling, you're going to find that you have problems. And she went on to tell me, and she was, again, I got to be very clear, she was very pleasant. But it still stood out as weird to me that she would drive over here over a little picture. Not
even snap a photo with your phone and send it on down.
Not even just wait until the morning when my wife's there again dropping my daughter off. Like, hello? You drove over here over that? She says, I've been through it all, with the birds and the bees. I've had this. This is my youngest daughter. My oldest kids, she says, are like 28 and this and that. I'm like, your oldest kids are about my age, and
this is what upset you.
This is like,
I want to know what freaks they are. They got to be weirdos.
Listen here, sugar. You have 28-year-old children and an 8-year-old that you're homeschooling.
You're a weirdo.
You're a weirdo. Yeah. You're kind of weird, but very pleasant in your weirdness.
I didn't say she was rude. I didn't say there's anything wrong with her.
She
I
was
said she's a little weird.
Completely not rude, except that like I had to be like, now I'm like, maybe this is not the right house for my daughter to be in because their values
are so drastically different
that they drove over here.
Apparently.
Like if she'd have said something about it in the morning to my wife, that's one thing, right? That's one thing. You can voice a quick concern, but to drive over here and come to my door and hand me this piece of paper in a very pleasant way, as though it's smut, like
as if she found a Playboy.
The feeling I took from this was like a very pleasant lunch lady expressing disgust at you, and I couldn't believe it, Corey. What would you? I mean,
I understand your position where you might not want your kid in this kind of value set since it's so apparently different from yours.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to last very long.
No,
I'm gonna if you don't pull it, she does. I'm telling you right now, this arrangement is not going to last long because your kid is going to be a free-thinking individual that you're trying to raise.
Yeah,
and their children are going to be little Jesus Jones. Guess what's not going to match, dude?
I don't know for sure that they're religious, but I mean, I think it's
a safe bet. I don't know that
if
for sure
they're not
either,
religious,
but
enough of their views line up with religion.
I don't know for a fact, but I take the bet.
Yeah.
Right now, I take that bet.
Yeah,
that they were a Christian.
But you wouldn't take the bet that the Bills wouldn't be in Buffalo next year?
Oh, I'm not taking that bet.
I wouldn't.
I'm not taking
that bet. Not with your standpoint. I wouldn't take that bet either.
And I don't give a fuck. I've come around to that.
No, me neither. You shouldn't. It's
don't give a fuck
goddamn
anymore.
Scam.
Move it to LA.
Yeah.
Piss.
Oh, who cares? Wherever it moves, it's going to be robbing the citizens of their money and just sending on up the pile to a non-for-profit. Anyway.
Tangent.
So
what makes a person... I'm sorry. Can I ask a question? What
you just did.
What do you think? Fuck you. What do you think...
That's actually not a question.
Oh, that was a direct statement.
Yeah.
What do you think makes people want to shield their children so much that it's literally going to handicap them?
Well, I think particularly with 8-year-olds, I think it's very easy to forget that they're not babies anymore because they were until just very recently. There's a big maturity difference that happens somewhere between the ages of 6 and we'll say 9 or 10.
And I'm going to tell you, yeah.
On the outsides. There's a
like
big maturity change that happens where they really start to develop, thoughts and expressivenesses that you don't see.
I've learned so far
in small children.
With children is that the maturity level goes up and it goes down. And every time it goes up, it goes a little bit further up. And every time it goes down, it doesn't go quite so far down. But like my daughter did that thing between 6 and 8 and 9. She really was like, I was impressed at what an individual she was.
Yeah.
She could think and she could ask good questions. But
she was making money.
She hit 10 and her head shut off.
Yeah.
Just she doesn't think before she acts and she's disorganized. I mean, more so than normal. And she doesn't remember to do things. She's in the middle of things, gets distracted. And she's gonna get better again, and then she's gonna get worse again. Because then I look at what I did in life.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Until you finally kind of flatten out, and then what you happen is when you have the immaturity stages, it only lasts a couple hours.
With my daughter, I don't really have. I can't look at it like that because there's not the genetic heritage there. So like. I can't say, well, I was like that at my age and have it necessarily mean anything.
There's a certain amount. Well, there
is
a certain amount of
6-year-old
a 6-year-old.
Yes, there is definitely that for sure. But there's also blood of my blood acts like my son. Yeah. Holy stubborn little asshole. I love him. Don't get me wrong. Don't listener. If it upsets you that I just called my son a stubborn little asshole, it's because you've never met him.
And you're listening to the wrong podcast.
Think of me with less vocabulary, and you'll basically have my son.
Yeah, who the hell else do I know is a fucking stubborn prick-faced asshole? I want to be clear, I didn't call your son that. I called
didn't
you
call
that.
him a prick-faced
No, I called
asshole.
you a prick-faced
I called him
asshole.
a little asshole.
I stepped it up a little bit. You're a little bit bigger, a little bit tougher skin.
So I didn't really know what to tell my daughter about this.
I think I would say, listen, different people have different ways, and they don't feel comfortable with this kind of thing, even though I think it's fine. You're not in any trouble. We just have to remember that when we're at other people's houses, we need to respect their rules.
That's what I said, more or less. The major difference would be, I said, listen, I don't really like you talking about boyfriend stuff, but I know you're going to think about it. And I said, there's nothing wrong with thinking about it. I said, but for now, I want you to just keep those thoughts in your head.
And it's a kid thing, too, to be concerned about things that are bigger than them, because it's a kid thing to want to be bigger.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
oh,
like,
yeah.
And
Yeah,
you got to
you wanna
remind them that those are adult problems.
Right.
You don't need to worry about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like my oldest is always in my business about
Right.
my
Yeah.
finances and what we're doing. Just go play.
Yeah.
Go make some arts and crafts. I spend thousands of dollars a year on stuff for arts and crafts.
Oh, God.
Go use it.
Get some markers and construction paper, kids. Yay!
Construction paper is the best thing ever. 99 cents for like 1,000 sheets.
So I think that
Did we do a parenting break?
we did, but that's okay.
That's different.
We're parents.
We're allowed to. I'm just saying it's different.
People relate to that kind of thing, I think. I do anyway, because it happened to me, so it's very relatable for me.
It's happened to you twice because you both had to grow up and then raise somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are, both those things give you experience.
Man, I had something, Corey. I was going to say something. And
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on it.
Oh, you didn't really step on it.
It was just profound and kind of
I
wandered away.
lost it, and it's just too bad.
Don't you love when it was a really profound thought, too? Like, if you forgot while you walked into the room because you were trying to get a banana, that's not important. But when you really had something important to say and you lose it.
Can I have do you mind? No. It's gone. I don't remember what it was. I tried real hard to remember. Listener,
TOD 8:28 p.m.
Yeah. Listener, we took a minute break that's not going to make it to the show for me to try to remember what that was. Not a clue what I was going to say. And you know what that means? It's time to go to break.
A new study finds strong evidence that bacteria can transfer gene into human genome, especially in cancer cells. Scientists now believe they will soon discover the presence of cooties.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Here on AirWreckRadio, we sometimes like to give you fun facts. Corey, would you like a fun fact?
I love a good fun fact. Fun fact.
Of the 3.5 trillion photos taken since the first photo was taken in 1838,
I think that's a low estimate, too.
10% of those photos were taken last year.
All right. Welcome to digital pocket photography.
And yet Kodak has managed to fuck it all up. Way to go, Kodak.
Way to go, local business.
No,
Way to go.
Why would anybody want to not buy chemicals and paper every time and film every time they wanted to take a picture? Who wouldn't want to pay for that? Fucking Kodak. How do they make that? God damn it.
What a sidebar you had there for a minute, buddy.
Well, I thought you would have an opinion about it, but you apparently...
I was kind of letting you go.
Thanks.
For a second, just letting you go for a second. You seemed like you were a little amped up. 50% of Kodak's problem was the fact that they didn't get a hold of the digital thing. That was only 50% of their fucking problem. I'm telling you this right now.
Yeah, maybe,
because they did get into the game. They just got into the game late.
What do you think the other
and
part
when
of the
they did
problem
get into
was?
the game, they came strong.
Do you think it was pensions?
Well, it's not so much the pensions. I mean, yes, the pensions. But more the people that milked the dollars to get them. That company is world renowned for its laziest, slowest workers.
Yo,
They were the most inefficient workforce ever known to man. That's probably a stretch.
Well, they were I mean, I want to be fair because, our primary listenership is
Would be children of Kodak workers?
Yeah. It's not that they were necessarily lazy. It's that they were encouraged to have lazy habits.
Because everyone else did.
Because that's just the way the system worked.
You do it when in Rome.
Yeah.
You're just plugged into the machine. If the machine works slowly, that's what you do. You have no choice, but that's part of it. That's the mechanics of it. Why are you giving me the strange I'm looking for a thought look? All right. Anyways.
Donde fueres has como romanos.
Good job. I don't know what the hell you said, but that's a good job anyways.
When in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Oh, good job.
Yeah. It's important to know how to say that in
Fucking
Spanish.
Classy.
In case you're ever in Spanish Rome.
Which is...
I don't know. Cuba?
Where?
Mexico?
Either way, we'll fucking fake it. It's fucking classy.
Yeah.
All right. That was 50%. Because when Kodak got in... Kodak invented the digital camera. True.
Yeah.
Absolute fact. In the late 70s...
Did you think I was going to say nuh-uh? You looked like you thought I was
wasn't
gonna
more
say
arguing
nuh-uh.
with you as I was addressing whatever. In the late 70s, developed first... And then when they got laid into the game because it wasn't the way of the future because you're morons. Because when they did get in the game, they came in strong. And just getting into the game late doesn't necessarily mean annihilation. They came strong. When we were talking about like 5 megapixels was a good camera.
Yeah.
They were one of the top of the line cameras. I remember because I sold cameras at the time.
Yeah.
But bad management, bad workforce, and wonderful New York State taxes.
Also, the bad management is absolutely what it is, but it's like super top level, man. Like the pay.
I don't think those people ever cared. I think they were riding that thing like the very top. I think they were riding that thing right into the ground.
Oh, absolutely.
They were just going to jump at the last second.
Or take this wave right to the beach, folks. That's pretty much what it went on, I think. That's what I hear tell of.
Yeah. They knew it was coming. We're just going to go.
Hey, Corey.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what time it is?
Is it time for headline news?
It is time for headline news.
Headline news.
Tonight, friends, in the headlines, we have a buttload of headlines. As usual, here on AirWreckRadio, we did not decide who was going to go first.
I don't know why we never do that.
But, Corey, I believe, if you don't mind, I will go first today.
I would like that, actually.
Excellent. I will start with a story that I found from some newspaper that I don't give a shit about. I can't believe I found this story.
Journalists.
The McClatchy Washington Bureau printed a story with this headline. With no federal water, pot growers could be left high and dry. You see what they did there?
Oh, they used a... Whoa, God.
Wow. That's like double entendre.
Why would you...
Whew. Journalism 101, folks.
Apparently, they let hacks write shit, too.
From Washington, newly licensed marijuana growers in Washington state may find themselves without a key source of water just as spring planting gets underway. Federal officials say they'll decide quickly whether the U.S. government can provide water for the growers or whether doing so would violate the Federal Controlled Substances Act. The Federal Controlled Substances Act, which makes possession of the drug illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know that part.
The U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, which controls the water supply for 2/3 of Washington state's irrigated land, is expected to make a decision by early May and perhaps as soon as this week, said Dan DeBray, the agency's chief spokesman.
Dan DeBray.
So here's the problem.
Listen up, folks.
If you are in Washington and also Colorado, where you want to have a growing business that will grow marijuana legally in your state, you're going to have a difficult time irrigating this year because the federally controlled water, the Fed can't let you do that.
I don't know about can't.
Well,
it sounds like we're trying to close a loophole, actually.
Have you seen Congress lately?
Yeah, I've seen how much they'd rather waste their time with bullshit than actually fix things.
The trouble is that even if they looked at this issue, they'd spend all day talking about the wrong parts of it.
Exactly. Don't these people have freedom to water? No, that would not be the conversation. Who's making the money off of this water? Who's making the money off of this weed? We got to get in on this.
Right. That's correct.
I like to simplify things to a base
They would all
level.
still have the same old conversation about the evils of marijuana because, listen, folks, some of those Congress people have been there since marijuana had the evils of it, and everybody still believed that.
64, I think? 60
Yeah.
in that range?
Yeah, there are people in Congress who have been there since the 60s.
I would just like to point that out as a long-ass time.
That is a butt-long-ass time. So, well, they're going to get a decision about that over the course of the next week. The ruling will mark another key test for the Obama administration, which again will decide how far it will go in allowing the state to bypass federal law with its experimental plan to license growers and sell pot for recreational use.
All right. What part of this would you start at? This is your problem to deal with right now. What's step one for Stace?
Step one for Stace was to find out what these potential pot farmers' other options would be.
Okay.
If would shutting the federal water off really cut them out of the water cycle?
Yes. I'm going to guess. You said 2/3?
Well, it said 2/3.
That's a lot.
It's a lot if you live or want to grow pot in a city. But if you're out in the country,
You could well it.
you dig a well.
Yeah, you could well it.
There's actually a statute about well digging in Colorado, and if you'll just give me...
You know, okay, here's how backwards things are, right? Let's say we didn't start anywhere but going with a cost analysis. What would be better for us as the government? Let's tie a loophole.
We're
And
the
shut some people
government.
down.
You're saying
Yes.
we're the government.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is my proclamation. Instead of tightening the loophole and shutting these evildoers down, what we could do is say that businesses using water supply have to pay a business tax on the water supply that's more than the people tax.
An exemption fee is what they would call
That's
it.
that's what that's called. I'm glad you had the terminology. And let's see if not only can we make a fucking buck off of this, since
Like the
according
price of
to
the
the board
exemption
up there,
fee?
we're broke as fuck. We got lots of stuff, but I know how debt to income works, and according to the board, we're broke as fuck. So we could use a couple of bucks that would come from getting a couple bucks more out of the water. Wouldn't you think?
I think
Doesn't-
that's pretty...
Doesn't that seem like...
that is the very most common sense approach you could take to this is, hello, we could use the money and pot's not evil. Does this really have to take 25 years for the government to catch up to this? We have a vast ability to have a natural resource that's just good for everything. And our current government is just eschewing it. They're just shoveling it off to talk about bullshit. Just to bullshit at each other and tell each other lies about how I'm a Democrat and I believe this, and this.
Oh, like there's
and,
two parties.
And I'm a Republican, so I believe this, and this. And that means that we can't compromise because that's not how democracy works. That's exactly how democracy works, actually.
We're all
But
actors who are being paid to play a game.
We just get our cocks out and have these little pretend sword fights with them in Congress and don't get anything done.
Do you know how much way more interesting C-SPAN would be? If that were fucking true.
These days, Congress is so goddamn busy picking dandelions, painting them red, and calling them orange or roses, they can't get any. There's just nothing gets done.
Taking dandelions and paint them oranges.
I should have just gone with oranges.
How about this? How about if you're going to go broad picture? Because I kind of want minutia. Let's if I'm going to get big, if you're going to get big picture with weed's not evil. How about we get even a little bit bigger picture and leave me the fuck alone? How about that one? How about you don't fucking tell me whether weed's evil or not?
I'm sorry, Corey. I just wanted you to know.
Oh, I'm sorry, not you, Stace. I love you. The man. How about the man? Why didn't he just leave me the fuck alone? Here's your money every week, and then at the end of the year, if I owe you some more, I'll give it to you.
Because if he leaves you alone, the minute that he wants to bother you, it's going to bother you a lot more. but this like chronic bothering of you, you get used to it and you come to expect it and accept it.
To the point
and
where
they
you
want that.
To the point where your tail flicks the flies off your back without your brain even registering it.
Right. Right. And then the next thing you know, you're glue. Exactly.
Yeah. Great analogy. See that teamwork? We put it up, spiked it down.
Have no idea what the fuck we're talking about, but we said something, and damn, it sounded good. So here's what the other options are. Back to the story.
Oh, yeah. Well, I forgot that's where we were.
Washington state officials already are discussing other ways that growers could get their water. While most of the growing operations are expected to be fairly small, the largest will be only 2/3 the size of a football field. That's pretty small.
I'd say that's pretty
small. I mean, that's a lot of pot for like a single grower, but not as a supplier. Like
that's not Philip Morris tobacco fields.
Right. Like the footprint of that is not big. It's like not a half acre.
It's growing a plant, Stace. It's growing a plant. It's not bad for anything.
That's a different conversation. This particular plant, I'll say that is probably true. The largest will be only 2/3 the size of a football field. Growers may be able to drill their own wells or tap into city water supplies, said Joe Redfield. Oh my God, this guy's got two last names, and
they're both terrible.
Said Joy Redfield Wilder, spokeswoman.
God, they are
Jesus
terrible.
Christ, lady, just pick a name. Spokeswoman for the Washington State Department of Ecology. Under state law, greenhouse growers can use well water if their operations use no more than 5,000 gallons of water per day. Now, I got to think pot's pretty easy to grow. I don't think that you would necessarily need to use 5,000 gallons a day. So it seems like they have a pretty good option, and if they have this terrific option to use locally sourced well water, that's actually better. And if the Fed says no and uses that, like the greenness of using locally sourced water, I'm all right with the Fed using that logic. Even if that's not what they really mean.
It's not terrible logic.
If that's the message they send, I'm down.
It's not terrible. I'm not saying that I'm down. It's not terrible logic. It just occurred to me the reason why they're using so much water isn't because they're not growing this shit in the dirt. They're not irrigating their shit. Their dirt. It's not growing like corn. They're growing this shit hydroponically.
Oh, that could be true.
Which is flowing water. It's got to flow constantly.
Yeah, some of them are going to be That's a good
I
point.
would say the majority of them, because when you grow something in the dirt, it gets a little bit of a dirt flavor.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So they say. And if you grow it in the water, it doesn't get that dirt flavor. So they say. That's what the people tell me that do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I bet if you grew corn hydroponically, it'd taste different too. But like nobody's doing that. I'm just saying, you're going to have some of that, but I don't think it's going to be the vast majority.
You just said, I'm going to go the other way because
I know you are. You already did.
You said that the largest is going to be half a football field.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have a half football field hydroponics lab.
It'd be as easy as hell.
How easy would you quantify hell to be? How many spoonfuls of easy do you think hell is? You measure easiness in spoonfuls in this analogy,
17
right?
with a pinch at the end, depending on how you like your hell. I'm told that they're fairly easy, and all you really need is some fresh water, lava rocks, a fish pump, some Tupperware, and a big setup with a little bit of money behind it. Wouldn't be too bad outside of the electricity needs. You'd have to have a hell of an electrical system.
You lost me.
Air filtration system. Yeah. I'm not saying that the half a football field would be hydroponic, but telling me that those are the biggest tells me that there's probably a lot. And the medical grade stuff that they've been smoking in California is mostly hydroponic. Unless you're growing for your own, which isn't technically legal in California.
I don't know enough about this to have a conversation about the growing techniques.
This is what they tell me.
You're not going to get any commitment. Like, I'm not going to be able to.
Okay.
You can talk about it all. I'm not telling you don't talk about it, but if you're looking for counter input, I just don't know enough to have opinions about growing.
Yeah, like I said, neither do I. I was just told this stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I really don't.
Oh, Oh, not the way that I'm bullshitting?
No, not
okay.
like that at all. Like, I literally really don't have anything.
Anyways, so I bet you that's where but I can kind of see the logic. Isn't our water here? Well, maybe not yours. Isn't our water in most of Rochester, the Great Surrounding county controlled?
Yes.
Yeah.
There is some federal water.
Do we get a lot of federal water around here?
There's some. You're going to have some federal water everywhere.
Well, it's like a spider.
But the county definitely controls most of the water, and that's going to be the same in Colorado too. They'll be able to use municipal water, local municipal water,
because maybe they'll be smart enough to go, okay, 10 cents more, and you can use our water. You'd take that rather than get shut down, wouldn't you?
Oh, I think that you should be, if you are walking into the pot growing business in a state that just legalized, you have to be expecting all this kind of bullshit. And it is bullshit, but you should be expecting it because you're trying to force feed change on a machine that eats change and shits out placidity.
Here's the problem, is the smaller cogs of that machine really do seem to be able to do, at least they show symptoms of it, that they can actually do some of that change. When you're talking on a local level and on the state level, it seems like the voice of the people still does have some. It's when you get up to the big government, it's when you get up to the fucking federal politicians that it seems that it seems like it's us versus them. It's now, mind you, the big leagues is drafting out of the minor leagues. But that doesn't mean everybody in the minor leagues is big league potential.
It's not them so much as it is the money that puts them there. And for a lot, and I mean, there are definitely the thems in that crowd, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to be, to use my sports analogy again, you have to be the best of the minor league to catch the money from the owners to get into the major league, to get the publicity, to get the press out there, and the right training, and to use my sports analogy further, beat it right to exhaustion.
Thank you.
What? I wanted to.
Good. I'm glad. So it's dead now, right?
I'm sure I'll find a way to bring it back eventually.
This break is going to need analogy emergency resuscitation. Corey, I believe that even though we have a story with a terrific segue, we are not going to be able to segue terrifically to it.
Why
but don't you have a story that would segue well from this story?
Well, would a problem like this might happen in Colorado, the other state?
Is that Colorado's new motto? Is it, their license plates call it Colorado, the other state.
The other state legalized marijuana.
For recreational use.
Yeah, that's a very good point. For recreational use. Headline from the Kansas City Star. Look how nationally fucking renowned I'm getting.
The Kansas City Star actually is a pretty prominent paper.
Families head to Colorado so sick kids can get medical marijuana. Kansas City. Otis Reed will soon move to Colorado so he can get marijuana every day.
Bring me a joint, Otis Reed, Otis Reed.
More?
What, more of the story? I don't really have enough to go on yet. Or did you want some more of Curtis Lowe transformed into Otis Reed? I still need more of the story for that.
Young Otis, too, suffers from epilepsy.
Now I made fun of a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
A sick 2-year-old. I feel terrible.
Yes. But you are terrible, so it should go right along nicely.
Not that kind of terrible.
So the story is basically in a long shell because I hated the way the story was written. I didn't have time to rewrite it. Him and his family moving to Colorado so this 2-year-old kid can get some pot. Kid's got a real fucking habit.
He's got epilepsy.
So
he has tremors. He gets
the weed helps his seizures.
He has seizures.
Yes.
Okay.
And the marijuana help his seizures and helps me, keep the appetite up.
Do epileptic people have appetite suppression problems?
They do when they're 2 and have a host of medical problems like terrible eyesight.
Okay.
So they're moving to Colorado to get this kid some medical marijuana. And I wanted to bring this to the show because I had two questions. How do you feel about the 2-year-old getting the medical marijuana? And 2, what does this mean for people who are, willing to move to get the medical marijuana? Like, is this a new trend?
Okay. One thing at a time.
All right.
The first thing. How do I feel about the kid getting marijuana?
2-year-old Otis, whatever the hell the kid's last
How
name was.
is this pot going to be administered? I
Vaporizer,
can't imagine
sir.
they're going to hand him a joint.
No, vaporizer, sir.
Little Timmy, it's time for your joint.
It would either be vaporizer or edible.
Okay.
That's what I read.
All right. So those are like the safest, absolutely cleanest ways to take marijuana medicinally.
Yes.
I don't have I don't really see that this is something that people need to. This isn't anybody's business, but this kid's parents, really.
Well, I
mean, legally, I guess it is because this.
My question is there an age restriction in Colorado for how young you can? But again, it's medical marijuana. If you get a prescription, does that even count?
Well, here's the thing.
Is there
man.
conflicting law there?
They have children's Motrin.
Very true.
Is it okay to give your kid Motrin all the goddamn time? No, but if he's got I don't know, epilepsy, and Motrin does anything at all to help ease his little fucking woes, then I think you give him the Motrin.
If, giving the kid a little sniffer of brandy makes him feel better.
Jesus Christ, if a hit of acid made this kid fucking great, give him the acid.
Give him 2. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, right? He'll be a regular goddamn Charlie Flowers for Algernon over here.
I would like to point out the overly sensitive picture that they used of the kid laying down and the father stroking his gentle forehead or back of his head.
Gently stroking his forehead.
Back of his head.
Whatever. Yeah, that is definitely not his forehead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a very sentimental picture.
Designed to pull on a string.
Well, and it should be designed because, when you're writing a news story, you should have a point. I do think that reporters should come right out and say, this is where I'm coming from when I write this, instead of just all these little submersive hints at what they're trying to say. Just come out and say, this is what I think about this. That way people wouldn't have to feel brainwashed to understand that you're trying to make a point, and I think that that's something that people suffer from these days. The second part of your question was,
all right,
how do we feel about people moving to Colorado?
Where is the law? What do you think and the opinion on people just up and uprooting to get either the recreational pot or the
Well, I'll tell you right now,
pot.
the minute you can't move from one state to another in this country, then the states are no longer states and the country is no longer a country. It's an empire of foreign nations, and each one of those states, the statesmen do not have rights in the other states. That's what I think. So you can't even walk in the door and have a conversation.
I know.
Them. But I'm saying,
what does this
you
mean,
can't even. I don't even want to humor a discussion about whether or not people can move from one state to the other, because of course they can. That's what makes them states, not enemy nations. We can move freely in our own country. That's what it means to be an American. At least it means that.
But there's more implications than just the right to move. I'm not saying they should restrict the right to move or not. There's deeper implications about people just uprooting and moving, maybe overpopulating an area, or you see economic shifts because people are moving away, or you find people that have real problems moving to these areas to find the legalization.
Those things are natural occurrences that will happen if an idea is so goddamn good and other states just wait too goddamn long to get on board. I don't think it's going to come to that, to where you'll have overpopulation in Colorado, because first off, you can only grow so much pot. So, I mean,
well, what if I'm screw that, I'm moving to Colorado to be a grower. Fuck smoking it.
I'm saying, it's like, why not, Corey? There's good money there. There's
great money there if somebody were to tell you how to do something like that.
The next billionaires might be pot farmers.
Yeah, they're called Philip Morris.
Then they will be Philip Morris employees after that. Or they'll sell their employees will be Philip Morris employees.
It would be fucking terrible if the tobacco companies actually survived recreational legalization. It'll happen,
It
but it
will
would be
happen.
terrible. It should be their undoing, but it won't be.
No.
I wanted to. Are you done on your pot story?
Yeah, we were on your pot story.
I'm done with my pot story.
All right.
So while this groovy weed is moving through the nation, man, we're healing everybody and we're feeling
God,
good.
you're going here.
There's a virus that is spreading unchecked
Oh,
through
God.
the United States hog belt.
Scare me, Corey. Please, would you tell me how horrible this is and how it's going to kill us all? A fucking hog virus, just like H1N1?
Headlines, and I quote, "Killer virus spreads unchecked through U.S. hog belt, pushing pork to record."
Okay.
Bum, 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 bum. Next at 11.
Pushing pork to record. Record what? Is there more to that headline?
Nope, that's the headline.
Terrific.
Bum, bum, bum. Can I tell you what the story's about now, Stace?
I'd love it if you would.
The pigs are dying.
Okay. That happens. Oh, my gosh. I've heard about this. Yeah.
It's the pigs that are dying. The headline is not designed to let you know that it's the pigs that are dying.
No.
It's the pigs that are dying. Okay, terrible thing. It's making the price of pigs go up because, well, healthy pigs are hard to come by. Stop eating fucking corporate pig. Moving on.
Yeah, here's the thing. The pigs are dying because we have our big food farms are like warehouses just stuffed to the gills with livestock, and the livestock eats and shits in the same place. They're covered in their own fecal matter all the goddamn time. They sleep sometimes standing up because there's just not room to lay down. It's disgusting the way we raise our food in big food in this country. It is absolutely disgusting, and we don't need to. But that's besides the point. They've sold us on the idea that we do need to.
3D printed meat.
So
Delicious.
you could have meat. That is a perfectly viable option, and it's something we're going to see. Printed meat that's completely synthetic.
And delicious.
We're going to see that. That's going to be a reality. But you can also have farmed meat. It doesn't need to be kept this horrible, horrible way. The way they're and this horrible, horrible way they're kept, this packed in tight with their own shit while they eat, that's why they get the viruses.
Mad cow disease was because they fed the fucking cows
Right.
beef.
Dead cows.
Yeah.
The unused parts of cows, including brain matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why the mad cow virus swept England.
Yeah, look around, folks. Have you ever seen a cow walk up to a dead body and start eating it? No, you haven't.
They're vegetarians.
Cows aren't carrion eaters. They're not scavengers. They eat grass.
It's really easy to find. It's right there.
It's bad enough we feed them corn. You'll never see a cow walk up to a corn plant and eat the corn. Like, they don't eat. It's not their natural diet. They eat grass. They want to eat grass.
Sometimes they like some tall grass.
And they could eat grass. Do you know how much grass you can grow in the volume of a cornfield? More than you can corn.
And the grass is constantly self-replicating.
Yeah.
Once you grow it, it's grown.
Right.
The cow doesn't pull it up by the roots.
Yeah.
Or just eats it for as far as its teeth can reach and moves on to another patch, and that patch grows back up.
The beautiful thing about grass, too, is you don't even need insecticide. You don't need Roundup for grass.
It's not going to kill the grass.
You don't need it. It's
It'll be full of bugs and worms.
Yeah, but that's
But it
fine.
won't hurt the grass.
Feed the chickens the bugs and worms.
Right, exactly.
Put the chickens through first. And then you put the pigs through, and and then you put the cows through, and they'll chew up the grass, and that's great. And then the pigs will dig through for the grubs and shit. You know what those pigs do while they're digging through? They till the land. You know what you do on freshly tilled land? You plant corn. And now you have like a fucking 5-year cycle that is completely usable.
If you have 5 plots to do this with.
If you're,
Yeah, that's the way it works.
Or you have one big plot and break it up into fifths.
All right, a little bit of over measurement. And
Anyway,
we got that.
the reason the pigs are sick is because we treat them fucking terribly. That's why the chickens get sick. That's why the cows get sick. That's why the people get sick.
People are sick, Stacey.
Not all of us.
Well, Some of us.
I mean, both of us, but not not everybody else.
Are you sure?
I'm not entirely. No. How would I know? I'm sick.
I'm no judge of character. I'm terrible.
A Missouri man who exposed partners to HIV clouds questions of laws on disease. It was a stunning revelation. Last August, inside the White Brick Police Department building, the man sitting a few feet from Detective Corey Mills said in a matter-of-fact tone that he had exposed as many as 300 men to the virus that causes AIDS. What a slut.
HIV, what a fucking...
300?
Brain overload. I'm done.
Man tramp.
I wanted to get mad there for a second, but I couldn't just...
He whore?
I don't know what to do.
The man, this guy's name is
all right.
fabulous. David.
His name's fabulous. His parents are terrible.
David Mangum.
Fabulous David Mangum. What a terrible name.
Mangum. Spelled how it sounds. Had come to the station to address allegations by an ex-boyfriend that Mangum did not disclose his HIV status and that there had been other sexual partners who were not told as well. A month earlier, the ex-boyfriend had gotten bad news from the country health department. He was HIV positive. He's not just sure.
So, off with his head? What do you think?
Well,
off with his fucking head.
The story goes on to be about, obviously, this guy sucks at life.
Terribly. And you can't put him in jail. He likes having sex with men.
Oh,
Let's
fuck, that's
stick him
true,
in a box full of them.
And he's got the HIV.
Uh-huh.
Man, that's true. That's a good point.
Off with his head.
I don't
necessarily
I'm
agree
not
with
going to
that.
say that.
I don't necessarily agree with that. Just off with his head.
I understand what would make people want to say that, but I'm not going to say that. The story goes on to be about how the law about this is very, very, very rigid.
Very clear. This is a no-no.
With the Missouri HIV law, like many across the country, a person can be convicted of a felony for exposing a sexual partner to the disease, even if the virus is not transmitted. The law does not allow condom use as a defense, and a conviction triggers placement on the state sex offender registry.
Whoa!
That's for life. Kind of like HIV.
Yeah, I was going to say, that kind of matches up there.
For now, but they are like really close to fixing that.
That would be an immunization thing, though.
Determining where to draw the line has states wrestling with tough questions. If a person who is HIV positive is taking medication that reduces his viral load to a level that doctors refer to as undetectable, and he uses a condom during sex, should that be a felony? Viral load.
God, we're pieces of shit. Why is that funny?
That's what it's about.
Viral load.
It's funny because it says it refers to his viral load, and what they're talking about is, in fact, his viral load.
I think we might be as big a hacks as the journalists that we rip off. That's a tough one with the condom thing as far as being a felon.
And why have tough penalties for HIV and not other sexually transmitted diseases such as HPV, the human papillomavirus, or hepatitis C or herpes?
Because
all three are lifetime afflictions.
That very rarely are the leading cause of the death.
But you
for
get
those people.
Human papillomavirus, I believe, is deadly.
Okay, see, this is. I'm going to do a men's health research segment.
Men can only carry HPV.
That's
they cannot be afflicted by it.
That's true, but this is an interesting fact for that. There is one strain of HPV that can increase your odds of cervical cancer. That doesn't mean because you have it, you're going to get it.
Wow. So if I have HPV, I'm more likely to get cervical cancer?
Thank you, smart ass.
I'm going to grow a cervix.
And the odds
Wait,
are...
no, I don't have HPV. I'm going to have to acquire that.
And the odds are that 80% of the sexual public have HPV strains of some sort. Not necessarily the ones that increase your odds of cancer, but that's how many people probably have this thing.
Okay.
Because condoms doesn't stop it.
No.
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 But none of these things, it could lead to cancer, but HIV, unchecked, is going to lead to AIDS and is going to lead to you getting pneumonia and dying.
I think the point is, though, is you have no protection against somebody who gives your ass herpes or hep C.
Which are terrible, uncomfortable things. You could sue them and possibly win.
Yeah, you could seek civil litigation.
And possibly
I guess
win.
that's true.
But it's not. And it's terrible and it sucks and I get it. And you maybe should get a couple bucks for the pain of it all. But it's not going to kill you. Herpes is not going to kill you. Neither is the hep C.
How about the other side of this coin? In 2009, Nick Rhodes was sentenced to 25 years for not disclosing his HIV status to a sexual partner. There was no room in the law to consider any lesser charge based on the facts that Rhodes used a condom and that he was on virus-suppressing drugs that make transmission unlikely. After his lawyers petitioned the court, Rhodes' prison sentence was changed to 5 years of probation.
Perfect example why I said, with the condom,
He's still lifetime on the sex offender registry.
For a guy who did his best to try not to transmit it to anybody, who just made a poor decision about not telling people.
Yeah.
That's the way I see that.
That is a tough one, though, because
it
is like, it is for life, man. It's definitely, that's a big goddamn deal to not tell somebody about. But at the same time,
it's not murderous action, it's bad choice. Dropping loads in dude butts that are full of HIV.
Oh, thank you.
Is a freaking just a weapon. That's a fucking weapon. You're purposely trying to kill you. I put my gun against his head. I pulled my trigger, and now he's dead. He's dead.
When it's like 300 men, and the dude's like, "Oh yeah, totally, definitely, yeah, that guy. He's a piece of shit.
He deserves to die." But the guy who
But
did
this
his
dude who
best
just had a
with one
boyfriend,
guy,
yeah.
He should have told him, but he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, and at some like you can only not tell him once. You know what I mean? Like you only get one opportunity to have fucked that up, and then you have to live with it for however many years.
You either have to ride it or take the consequences of him maybe kicking your ass to death.
Right.
Possibly beating you to death.
I mean, people get angry over that kind of stuff.
Something like you shot a bullet at me.
Yeah, it's definitely not like it's not the same thing as pulling a gun out and shooting it at somebody, but it's not. It's not a nice thing to do, friends. Here's your little AirWreckRadio PSA for this week's show. Don't give people AIDS. Don't do it. Listen.
Don't drop loads in people's butts.
They have websites. No, go ahead. If that's your thing, if you like to do that, that's fine. Go ahead and drop loads in people's butts. But
not with HIV.
If you have HIV, they have websites where like you can meet other people with HIV and you guys can swap HIVs back and forth and have a good time.
Maybe create a super virus that kills the other virus, making you a superhuman hero.
Probably not going to happen, but
Fun
moral
story.
of the story, don't give people AIDS. Don't give them HIV. Don't give them herpes. Don't give them hep C. Don't give them a cold. It's rude. If you're sick, stay home from work. I know it's hard to do. It's a pretty unrealistic thing to expect from people, but it's rude to get people sick. So, with that said, why don't we go to break?
Thank you for listening, however you listen. iTunes, Stitcher, AirWreckRadio.com, or ROCPodcast.com. It's been a long time since we actually plugged something.
That's a good point. You know, while we're doing that, I have another plug that I thought of.
Throw it in there?
Yeah, I actually had a couple other plugs that I've been thinking about that we haven't said anything nice about any of our fellow pod friends. Folks, why don't you head on down to 1548 Buffalo Road to First Print Comics and buy some comic books.
Oh, with some cash. Show your love with some cash. You know how else you can do that? You can donate to them. You can go to their website,
chickenprince.com,
and throw them some cash over the website.
This shit ain't free.
It ain't.
They'll be the first ones to tell you.
You know who else you can donate to?
AirWreckRadio.
AirWreckRadio.
We take your bitcoins, those worthless bitcoins.
Either that cash, worthless cash.
It's not even worth anything. It's the paper it's written on.
Or
isn't even paper anymore.
Worthless electronic bitcoins.
Also, you can feel free to go, when you go into Amazon to buy something, why don't you stop over to the Mental Overload Show's website and use their portal to get to Amazon.
We should actually do that for ourselves.
Well, but we don't, and they do. So why don't you go to Mental Overload and use their portal to Amazon, and they'll get crumbs from your purchase. Doesn't cost you anything extra, but they'll get some crumbs. This has been your AirWreck Radio quick pimpin' section for the ROC podcast with things to sell.
Oh, yeah. Get out there, bitch, and suck it. And welcome back to AirWreck Radio. Thank you for hanging through the break. We were in the middle of headline news, and it was time to take a break so that we could hit the head, get a drink, and stop bitching at each other.
It's like my podcasting co-host always said. Right? Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Okay.
Was that the right answer?
Yes.
All right. I still wanted to do another story.
Yay!
About geniuses in the police department.
Tell me a story about freedom, Corey.
All right. Tennessee policeman fired after photos of him show him choking a student.
McFry, you're fired!
Nashville. A sheriff in Tennessee fired an officer after a British newspaper published photographs on a British newspaper.
What?
Published photographs on Sunday that showed him choking a handcuffed college student until he lost consciousness.
Oi! Quiet down over there. There's a story in the newspaper about Tennessee.
Fuck you, you dirty limey. I'll choke whoever I want.
Well, that's a weird set of circumstances. What a weird what a strange set of circumstances.
The photographs published by online edition of the Daily Mail, what a surprise, showed an unidentified officer appearing to throttle the exact words. My grandfather wrote this in his his diary. Appeared to throttle a 21-year-old Jared Dotson.
The officer was quoted as saying, "Why, you little?"
While two fellow officers handcuffed the student's hands behind his back after arresting him at a party. Sorry, the CD skipped. Near the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. So,
boy, there's no Knoxville, Tennessee in England. What the
fuck? Where did that come from?
Why is it that to get
I
American
got this out of
news
Reuters,
stories,
by the way,
oh god, well, I got nothing for you about that. I don't know what to say about that. There, the picture, friends, listeners, I have to tell you, the photo. You need to see this photo.
Before I leave here tonight, I'll put it up on the website.
Go to airwreckradio.com. You'll find the photo.
Yes, before I leave here tonight.
That's the album art for this week's episode. We'll save you the trip to the website, but please go to the website.
Freedom.
That's exactly how that needs to look.
The student did not appear to show any signs of resistance, while the officer, later identified as 47-year-old Frank Phillips.
Frank the Tank Phillips? Frank the Tank Phillips did this.
Frank the Tank. Man, the tank always beating crazy. Held him by the neck until he collapsed to his knees. Get on your knees and tell me you love me.
When I fuck you with some freedom.
John Messner, the Knoxville photographer who took the pictures, described to the Mail how the officer then slapped Dotson around on the head a few times before walking off. Stupid little bitch.
I like the way your hand motions were especially quiescent. Very limp-wristed of you, sir.
Oh, God, I got to get a wedge for this fucking chair. I keep rolling away. Knoxville County Sheriff Jimmy J.J. Jones.
Oh, my God. These people are rock stars.
I swear to God, this isn't a fictional story.
We thought he was one of them Duke boys.
That's exactly what I just thought. This is a TV show from the 70s.
I'm Sheriff Jimmy J.J. Jones.
Said in a written statement that Phillips was found by department investigators to have used excessive force during the arrest on Saturday.
Wait, whoa.
That was excessive?
It's not part of a booking to choke somebody to their knees and slap them around a little? Somebody needs to inform the New York City Police Department that's not how we behave.
Stop and frisk and choke and slap.
Oh, wait. This wasn't New York at all. This was Tennessee.
Good old down home Tennessee.
Pay attention, folks. It's spreading. The grossest thing about the cops these days is that they think they're doing the right thing. And this is what they do. I love the cops that do their job well. I love the ones that do a good job of doing their job the way it was intended to be done. Unfortunately, the incentive structure is not there for them to be keepers of the peace or to serve and protect. The objective these days is to arrest as many people as they can, and if we're lucky, we'll find some charges to throw at them that'll stick in court, and we can just file them through the private prison system, and that's how that works these days, and it sucks.
I just want to read 2 more pieces of this story.
Please.
First off, Dotson, the young man who was choked, was charged with public intoxication and resisting arrest. He was released from jail. Onlookers say there was no resistance. All right, whatever. He was released from jail on a $500 bond Sunday morning. So he's out $500.
He gets that back, though.
Yeah, if he shows up to court and all that.
Yeah.
With interest, because it's a bond, not bail. I'm sorry. And
yeah, I mean, he had to pay the bondsman's
but he's also
fee.
going to have a hell of a headache and a bruised larynx and not be able to eat for a few fucking days.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's what...
This is not how you behave, officers of the law. And that's why this officer is fired. That's why this officer is fired. And that's why we get to know his name.
And you should.
Because if he wasn't fired, you wouldn't get to know his name.
Frank the Tank Phillips.
Frank the Tank Phillips.
From Tennessee.
Is no longer an officer, and that's why we get to know his name. However, all the officers that rough people up and get complaints filed against them, even if they get a conviction, if they don't lose their job, they keep their anonymity, which there are some good points to that. There are some good reasons
You
to
shouldn't
provide.
lose your job every time something might...
Hey, man, you're in an intense situation, man, but honestly, they're not all that intense. I don't know the specifics of this one, but...
Well-organized police forces arresting drunk college kids doesn't seem like in a fucking intense...
It certainly looks like
situation.
In the photo, this kid was handcuffed and held by 2 officers while Frank the Tank Phillips was choking his face off.
Now, he might have said something smart or even wiggled a little bit when they were trying to grab him.
Yeah, but that's not really cause for choking the motherfucker out.
No, I don't think it is. Okay, last thing from this story, because it's half the reason I did this story was to read this quote to you. And quote, "This incident provides a perfect example of why we are in the process of purchasing officer-worn body cameras, video and audio recordings. So incidents like this will be fully documented," said the Sheriff J.J. Jones.
Jimmy J.J. Jones.
Yes, is buying some cameras for his boys.
That's what I'm fucking talking
Half
about.
the reason I did this story.
Thank you for providing me with that quote. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Every cop, it should be part of their chest badge. A camera. Why not? Why not? Then it's documented. Then we know. Then there's no more questioning an officer's word because we know.
There you go. And you only have to save it for what, 7 years? Maybe we put a time limit on it to
Yeah,
save storage.
you have to put a statute of limitations on it because everything else has a statute of limitations.
And you got to save fucking data storage.
You have
gotta
to
be
give
able
them
delete
that. And missing data should carry a stiff penalty like a guilty conviction.
Or at least expulsion from your fucking job.
There should be
Termination.
no excuses for that kind of oversight. Officers should have cameras. I am complete. You know I'm behind that. That's why you.
Now that we know his name, can I point out that the van behind the picture, says Sheriff Jimmy J.J. Jones?
It sure does. Wow, I wonder if they do that every time they get a new sheriff. They must. There's your taxpayer money
That's
right
wasteful.
there. We're going to put the sheriff's name on the side of the paddy wagon.
Oh, God. Look, got tasers, all sorts of things. This fucking dude is under control.
Oh, he is well under control. Look at how
fucking
calm.
handled.
The other 2 officers that are handling him look completely calm. And Frank the Tank is he just looks pissed as all get out.
In fairness, When you blow up the picture, the student isn't fully in handcuffs. They're just starting the process.
That's true.
And he does. If you see the muscles in his arms seem to be flexing.
Yeah, because he's getting choked out.
He might be resisting the pulling too. In all fairness,
Okay.
and the other two officers seem like they're acting like well-trained professionals.
That one in the background is like, I don't even give a fuck about this.
Why do I do this? I'd rather be home painting.
I just want to go home and watch the news and see what's going on in Russia.
I just really want to explore my artistic side. And fucking Frank the Tank's like, I'm gonna fucking kill me a college kid.
This photo is ridiculous.
That's why I put it up, because it really evokes a
It's
response.
a very high quality photo.
It really is. I still want to know why I was reading British resources to get it.
That is strange. A Tennessee story out of Great Britain. Not really the way I thought the world worked, but
It happens.
what do I know? Moving on, Corey?
Absolutely. Let's move into our weekly update on Mother Russia.
Why don't you kick things off? Your story is a better starter.
U.S. imposes sanctions against 7 Russians and 17 companies. It links to Putin. Putin. This also comes from Reuters. Washington. The United States on Monday slapped sanctions on 7 Russian government officials and 17 companies linked to Russian President Vladimir Putin in a fresh attempt to force Moscow back down from its intervention in Ukraine. The White House said that third round of sanctions in response to the Ukraine crisis was prompted by Moscow's failure to adhere to an April 17th agreement in Geneva on the ways to resolve this situation. What a slappy dick slappy fucking stupid thing this is.
Why do you say that? To clarify I want a little background for the listeners, or a reassessment of what happened. Our sanctions against Russia are against individuals or specific companies with close ties to President Vladimir Putin. Now, why do you say that this is a ridiculous little dicky slappy move?
Okay, here's what's happened. Vladimir Putin heard some shit to his left. He then pulled his rather large penis out and dropped it on that shit. The U.S., threatened by his rather large penis, held our rather large penis while we slapped him in his. It's just more fucking preening and prodding and strutting.
Preening is the word you were looking for.
Yeah, it's just a dance. I mean, either make a solid line or get the fuck out.
See,
guess what my opinion is? Get the fuck out.
The thing is that they feel compelled to, and I agree. I agree to a point. See, the trouble with Ukraine is that the natural
It's always getting in trouble.
that is full of Ukrainians.
Whoa.
No, that's quoting Braveheart, only substituting Ukraine for Scotland.
You're going to be like the first person ever to get in trouble with Ukrainian people. If you're Ukrainian and listening to us, we love you, but go fuck yourself.
I don't agree with that statement at all.
I do. Moving on.
The trouble with Ukraine is that it's got all the natural gas pipelines that feed the natural gas from Siberia to Europe run through Ukraine. This is why Russia wants control of that area, so that when the UN threatens sanctions against Russia, they can say, fuck you, we'll shut your gas off. Have fun with your economy crashes, your fresh round of crashed economies. So that's why that's where the Russian interest in Ukraine comes from, and it's kind of hard to say. You know, I still think that this is not our problem, but apparently the powers that be think it is, and if they're going to think it is, then they have to do something. And what they have to do is it starts with sanctions, and this targeted sanctioning is I don't know if I think it's appropriate, but they seem to have a pretty good reasoning set up.
Not appropriate. I mean, in my opinion, whether it's happening or not, and you're right, it is happening in realism. That you got to deal with the fact that it exists. But it's just stop playing the game with the back and the forth. Either oppose them or let matters that aren't yours be. Is my opinion, because I would choose for you to leave the matters be. But if we had to choose, if that's what we did choose was to oppose them, then that would be the reality of the fact as well.
Well, that's what we're doing, is opposing them.
But instead of preening and prodding and doing the dancing, which Putin likes to do too, we should just say, stop, or we're coming in to fight you.
That's such a terrible idea, though. Nobody wants that.
And nobody does want that. Or
so you have to you
or we
can't
get
sit
out.
down and negotiate an endpoint that nobody wants when you have steps between here and there.
Okay, here's my opinions, and I'm allowed to have them.
You sure are.
Or you get the fuck out of other people's business. Those are my opinions.
And you know that I agree with you that we should not. This is not an American problem. It just isn't. But we insist that it is. So what we've done here is apply. And don't kid yourself, man. Putin's not a nice guy. It seems like Putin's not a nice guy. Now, I don't actually know that. I've never met the guy. But it seems like he's not a very nice person. And Russia, it is the American propaganda machine to show us the shitty images of Russia.
Which is a fair point to make.
But it doesn't seem like a terrifically great place for, it was illegal to carry hard American currency there, but everybody did. But you could sure be put in a fucking jail over it.
It's all right. I'm not going to argue the point. Whether approve or not approve, so it's just what it is. That's what the conversation is. I don't approve. I think it's either too much or not enough. You think that it seems reasonable.
I think it
Right?
seems like a very carefully calculated move based on the fact that they think that these companies have direct ties to Vladimir Putin, who, one of the stories I read said that Vladimir Putin might have a private fortune of between 40 and 70 billion dollars. That would make him the richest head of state in world history, richer than the oil heads of state. And if this is true, it really makes you question exactly what kind of maniac he might be. If it's true, the
this
biggest
is a big
thing,
if here.
the biggest thing about this story
is that big two-letter
is
word.
that the best conspiracies involve cover-ups. But that doesn't mean they didn't happen. You cover your tracks. If you're Vladimir Putin, you don't want the world to know that you have 40 to 70 billion dollars available to you. That's a lot.
It seems like a lot of money for nobody to know.
You
know what I'm saying?
I agree, but it's not like he has it in paper in a vault somewhere.
Exactly. There's got to be bankers and
These are the people that were targeted, including one Gennady Timchenko, a longtime part owner of a commodities trading company called the Gunver Corp. Timchenko's name was buried in the Treasury Department's announcement about the sanctions, where most Americans would not see the significance. However, these dozen words, quote, Putin has investments in Gunvar and may have access to Gunvar funds, may have been meant to send a very clear signal of taking the gloves off, said Juan Zarate, a White House counterterrorism advisor to George W. Bush, who helped pioneer the government's modern financial campaign techniques used to choke off terrorist money. So this guy knows what he's talking about, except that he might be the same guy who told us that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So he was, in charge of things during the Bush time where lies abound. So that's another side of the story is, there's no
government officials are lying to us?
no great reason to, especially when they talk about, cutting off terrorist money. They really just mean like enemies of our private backers.
That's the dumbest fucking thing. I am officially annoyed
By?
the news
Okay.
things that have happened. I am officially annoyed.
All right.
What else you have besides Russia?
No, that's what I had. I had a whole story written about this.
Oh, you got more?
I sure do.
Oh, it sounded like you were wrapping it up. Go ahead.
No, I was just seeing where you were in this.
Oh, no, I'm listening to you. You got it all written up, man.
It's
You did the
basically
work.
more of the same. This is a quote from the news story. So far, the American government has not imposed sanctions on Putin himself, and officials say they would not.
That'd be difficult.
Well, it would be just as easy as imposing sanctions on giant corporate banks, but
What?
those banks don't actually have the finger on the button.
Exactly.
That's kind of the point.
And Putin's known for wagging his dick around.
Yeah,
He's
man.
known for fucking peacocking. Putin's a peacocker.
So this is meant to send a message. Senator Robert Menendez, Democrat of New Jersey, Democrat from New Jersey,
Words that jumble together.
said it's like standing in a circle and all of a sudden everyone in the circle is getting a bomb thrown on them and you get the message that it's getting close. Senator, I'd like to point out that, like, while I appreciate where you're coming from with your analogy, this might not be the time to start using words like bombs in an analogy kind of way. We don't need to be threatened with this. Doesn't need to. Here's the thing. If Russia doesn't back down, we don't need to step it up to military actions. If we make it so clear that we don't like what they're doing, that still doesn't mean that they have to stop doing it or we're going to evade. Sometimes you just have to realize there's no benefit in this. It's even if there is a benefit that I don't see, like maybe you want to keep your European countries, you want to keep their natural gas resources out of direct Russian hands. Maybe that's what it is. That's not worth the cost of perhaps entering World War III.
You really think it's okay? Double-sided question again. You really think this could be the spark of World War III, and even bigger than that? Do you think World War III is even possible?
Of course, it's possible.
You really think? I mean, and honestly, that the people that are actually running things realize that with today's destructive capabilities, that a world war would be just absolutely the most devastating thing you can imagine.
People at the outset...
I'm
going to answer the question. People at the outset of World War I thought there's no way the world powers could get in a war. We're all too economically tied together. There's no real benefit to getting into a war. And guess what happened? We got into a war. The whole world got into the First World War. They called it the Great War, the war to end all wars. A decade and a half later or something like how many years was it? Do you know? I'm not sure.
1914 was the start of World War I.
That ended in 1918?
It ended in 18, and World War II was 1930.
The Roaring Twenties into the Great Depression into World War II. Mm. And people all thought when things started gearing up with the Nazi Party in Germany, everybody was like, there's no need to have this war. We're not going to have it. Everybody's so economically tied together. We just had a war. We're good. And then what happened? World War II. So this idea that we're all so advanced that we don't need to have a war, I love it. I hope that it's the way it is. But the evidence suggests that it's reasonable to think that right up until the bombs start falling.
Well, that's true. I wonder if the technology has gotten to the point where the Mexican standoff is so large that it might have gridlocked itself.
Well, that's true, but I don't want to underestimate the human being's ability to self-destruct if given enough unhealthy symptoms. And God damn it, look around, we have enough unhealthy symptoms.
I guess that's a fair point.
Shit is a mess. It's a goddamn mess. But it's not hopeless. We're fixing it. People are becoming aware of things that make the mess. We're fixing it. Hopefully, it gets fixed in time. We can hope. All right. So moving off from there. Real quick, before we go to the end of the show with the Sassafras Tea, Corey, I found a TED Talk that is a 5-minute TED Talk. Let me just see if we have enough time. We have enough time in the show to do a 5-minute TED Talk. Would you like to watch 5-minute TED Talk with me?
I would like to point out that it's our podcast, and we can make it as long as we'd like. Just saying. If we were out of time, we could still do it.
I'm aware of that.
It is astounding how significantly one idea can shape a society and its policies.
This is Nick Hanauer.
If taxes on the rich go up, job creation will go down. This idea is an article of faith for Republicans and seldom challenged by Democrats, and has indeed shaped much of the economic landscape. But sometimes the ideas that we are certain are true are dead wrong. Consider that for thousands of years, humans believed that the Earth was the center of the universe. It's not, and an astronomer who still believed that it was would do some pretty terrible astronomy. Likewise, a policymaker who believes that the rich are job creators and therefore should not be taxed will do equally terrible policy. I have started or helped start dozens of companies and initially hired lots of people. But if there was no one around who could afford to buy what we had to sell, all those companies and all those jobs would have evaporated. That's why I can say with confidence that rich people don't create jobs, nor do businesses large or small. Jobs are a consequence of a circle of life-like feedback loop between customers and businesses. And only consumers can set in motion this virtuous cycle of increasing demand and hiring. In this sense, an ordinary consumer is more of a job creator than a capitalist like me. That's why when business people take credit for creating jobs, it's a little bit like squirrels taking credit for creating evolution. It's actually the other way around. Anyone who's ever run a business knows that hiring more people is a course of last resort for capitalists. It's what we do if and only if rising consumer demand requires it. And in this sense, calling ourselves job creators isn't just inaccurate, it's disingenuous. That's why our existing policies are so upside down. When the biggest tax exemptions and the lowest tax rates benefit the richest, all in the name of job creation, all that happens is that the rich get richer. Since 1980, the share of income for the top 1% of Americans has more than tripled, while our effective tax rates have gone down by 50%. If it was true that lower taxes for the rich and more wealth for the wealthy led to job creation, today we would be drowning in jobs. And thank you. And yet, unemployment and underemployment is at record highs. Another reason that this idea is so wrong-headed is that there can never be enough super-rich people to power a great economy. Somebody like me makes hundreds or thousands of times as much as the median American, but I don't buy hundreds or thousands of times as much stuff. My family owns 3 cars, not 3,000. I buy a few pairs of pants and shirts a year like most American men. Occasionally we go out to eat with friends. I can't buy enough of anything to make up for the fact that millions of unemployed and underemployed Americans can't buy any new cars, any clothes, or enjoy any meals out. Nor can I make up for the falling consumption of the vast majority of middle-class families that are barely squeaking by, buried by spiraling costs and trapped by stagnant or declining wages. Here's an incredible fact, that if the typical American family still retained the same share of income that they did in 1970, they'd earn like $45,000 more a year. Imagine what our economy would be like if that were the case. Significant privileges have come to people like me, capitalists, for being perceived as job creators at the center of the economic universe, and the language and metaphors we use to defend the current economic and social arrangements is telling. It's a small jump from job creator to the creator. This language obviously wasn't... This language was not chosen by accident. Right, and it's only honest to admit that when somebody like me calls themselves a job creator, we're not just describing how the economy works, but more particularly, we're making a claim on status and privileges that we deserve. Speaking of special privileges, the extraordinary differential between the 15% tax rate that capitalists pay on carried interest, dividends, and capital gains, and the 35% top marginal rate on work that ordinary Americans pay, is kind of hard to justify without a touch of deification. We've had it backwards for the last 30 years. Rich people like me don't create jobs. Jobs are a consequence of an ecosystemic feedback loop between customers and businesses. And when the middle class thrives, businesses grow and hire, and owners profit. That's why taxing the rich to pay for investments that benefit all is such a fantastic deal for the middle class and the rich. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's an idea worth spreading. In a capitalist economy, the true job creators are middle-class consumers. And taxing the rich to make investments that make the middle class grow and thrive is the single shrewdest thing we can do for the middle class, for the poor, and for the rich. Thank you.
A little bit of background on that story. That particular TED Talk was banned is probably not the right word. TED refused to publish it because they said it was too politically charged. It reached too far outside of the realms of what TED Talks are about.
What?
Yeah, I'm like, politically charged, is that's slang for it tells people what's really going on.
Because it offended rich white guys.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened there.
Ah, gotcha.
But the people found out, and the people wrote to TED Industries or TED whatever it is, and said, hey,
you're a real dick, Ted.
You have this great free speech apparatus. Don't do this. Don't tell us that we can't hear what this guy says, because, like, if you're going to have a free speech apparatus, let it be that. You know, you chose this guy to come and talk.
Then you're going to censor him.
You don't get to decide if you like what he said and then not share it with everybody. It's not... I mean, you do. I guess you do have that privilege, but...
Like anything else, like a good capitalist, you give me a product I don't like, and I ain't going to buy it.
Right. And people said, release this, and as good capitalists, Ted released it.
There you go.
So, that's how that works. Nick Hanau is a big billionaire. He was one of the first investors in Amazon, where he was an advisor to the board until 2000. He founded Gear.com, which eventually merged with Overstock.com, so rich as a bitch. And Avenue...
.com.
And Avenue A Media, which in 2007, under the new name A Quantive, was acquired by Microsoft for $6.4 billion.
$6.4 billion.
So this guy's rich, 1% rich. And he sees through the bullshit and is willing to share it with all of us, that it is in fact bullshit, this idea that the rich create jobs. If the rich created jobs, they wouldn't have exponential growth in wealth over the past 10 years, while the rest of us either got poorer or got unemployed, which I guess is even more poorer.
I really just got to go down to eat the rich.
Yeah. Yeah. Aerosmith had it right. If you see a rich person, friends, eat them.
Except for this guy.
Except this guy.
This guy's pretty hip.
So I encourage you to watch the video so that you know which one of the rich guys you shouldn't eat. Because he's doing an all right job of being rich, I guess.
And the
at least
Virgin Mobile guy. That guy's pretty good at being rich, too.
I don't actually know what he's doing that is good, except that he said words that I liked.
He's spreading information that we agree with.
The things that he said seemed like what I've been trying to say all along.
It's funny to me that one of the facts that he said was that the average income, if the rate had stayed the same from the 70s through now, that the average income would be $90,000. And to me, $90,000 would be life-changing, a year would be life-changing money.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, not for me. For me, it'd be life-changing because I wouldn't be able to afford all the fancy things that I can afford. That's completely untrue. I'd still be able to afford them. I may even be able to afford more of them.
Not much more, but a little bit more.
$45,000 a year is a big goddamn deal.
It's more than I make. The jump is more than I make.
And what he's saying is that wealth is there. It's just not being distributed properly because we just...
Yeah, it's just it's the distribution that's the problem. And as long as the rich white guys are the ones making the tax rules about who should be taxed,
yeah, that's kind of where it's at right there.
They're never going to tax themselves more.
No.
Why would you? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that?
I guess because you have a
moral obligation.
A moral obligation.
I don't know that being rich necessarily means you have a moral obligation.
Well, clearly, Corey, we can look around and see that it definitely doesn't necessarily mean that.
So it's your moral obligation to eat the rich.
It might just be. You know what goes great with rich people?
You're killing me, motherfucker.
Little sassafras tea. That's what goes great with rich people. Folks, this has been your episode of AirWreckRadio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, stop on by AirWreckRadio.com. Download the show from there. We are on Stitcher. We are on iTunes. We are on ROC Podcasts, the most important website you're ever going to visit after you visit AirWreckRadio.com.
There's nothing to do around here, and if there was, well, I wouldn't try. Taking my comforts, taking good care of me, sitting a solution. I know how to set him free. Set him down in my easy chair and give him a sip of my sassafras tea.
ROCpodcasts.com.